Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching Android 5 playing in the T-34-3. This is the Tier 8 Chinese premium medium tank, and also I should mention that Android 5 plays on the Asia server, so big shout out to all of my followers out there who do play on the same server as Android. Now the T-34-3 is a bit of a funny old vehicle, right? Everybody knows why the hype was about this tank, and that's because of the Type 59. When they removed the Type 59 and they told us they were going to be putting the T-34-3 in the game, everyone was thinking, oh, is it another Type 59? Shall I get one immediately in case it's so overpowered that they have to remove it instantly? And it spent quite a long time in the game being fairly lackluster, in my opinion. At one point, this vehicle fired 4 rounds a minute, which was actually absolutely disgusting when you think of it. Then the rate of fire was buffed quite a lot, 10% actually, now to 4.48. But the main thing that has given this tank a lease of life is the fact that a couple of patches ago, in 9.13, they increased the gun depression from 3 degrees, which was horrific, to 5 degrees, which puts it on par with many Soviet medium tanks where you can feel fairly comfortable with 5 degrees of gun depression. And when you combine that with the gigantic 122mm that this vehicle gets, it suddenly becomes a much more attractive prospect. And also, this tank has preferential matchmaking, meaning that it can never meet tier 10 tanks. And so tier 9 is the worst that it can possibly engage. And thank goodness that it has preferential matchmaking, because the standard penetration on this gun is 175. And when you're really dealing with tier 9 and many tier 8 tanks, you're probably best to use the heat rounds on this vehicle that do have 250mm of penetration. But I always think that when I have to resort to fire premium in a premium tank, or premium ammunition in a premium vehicle I should say, that it kind of defeats the point, and one of the reasons why you're playing this tank is probably to make credits in the first place. And when you're putting in big meaty rounds like that into vehicles, you can just see the credits go bing every time you hear that crit bell now. That should really be replaced with like a cash register, a ka-ching, because every round that you put in, you're making a gigantic amount of credits with this vehicle. And that KV-85 can't be happy about losing pretty much half his hit points in a single shot from a tank that, albeit is 2 tiers higher than him, 390 alpha damage to be exact on this 122mm. And Android 5, he's got 2 marks of excellence on this tank, but spoilers, a few games after this one, Android 5 does manage to pick up his 3rd mark of excellence, so congratulations to you on that. But my word, thinking about it, I don't even have my ace tanker on this vehicle yet, although I have come close quite a few times. But trust me, Android 5 is going to be getting more than an ace tanker from this battle. So he's fighting alongside a Centurion, and there's also a VK2801 that has decided to go pretty aggressive there. I don't know what that German light tank was thinking, but I guess he provided a good distraction for Android 5 to put in a meaty shot into the A44. And talk about meaty shots, I don't think that Centurion is very happy, because it looks like artillery just ruined his day. But at least the Centurion is going to leave a fairly big meaty wreck for Android 5 to start to work behind. And work behind he's going to have to do so indeed, because he's now engaging 4 opponents directly in front of him. With only a KV-2 sitting in the cap circle behind him, he's certainly got his work cut out for him, especially considering that there are 2 artillery on the enemy team as well that he has to constantly watch out for. Now you're seeing that the armor on this tank is pretty darn nice, and thank goodness artillery on his side starts to do some work as the GW Panther finishes off that first tier 6 Japanese premium heavy tank, the heavy tank number 6 on the enemy team. Now the T-34-3's armor is not that bad, but oh my gosh, the Object 416, that is probably one of the most dangerous medium tanks at tier 8 that you could ever possibly hope to have behind you. And that's because it uses 100mm, which is comparable to the T-54's gun, the tier 9 Soviet medium tank. And I absolutely love what Android does here. He goes in front of the Centurion to avoid getting shot by the Object 416, albeit giving his hull armor to the A44 and the Centurion in front, but far better to give your hull armor to a Centurion which has got pathetic DPM compared to the very dangerous Object 416 behind him. And he also manages to finish off that Centurion, securing his 4th shell into him, doing 1,450 damage with those 4 shells. Man, this tank is so meaty. Most medium tanks would have had to have shot that vehicle 6, possibly 7, maybe if you're low rolling 8 times to be able to take him out. This heavy tank number 6 is deciding that he's going to take matters into his own hands and tries to ram Android, but Android turns his armor to face him before he manages to get the ram into his weaker side armor, which is an important thing to do in this vehicle, having 90 millimeters at the front and only 50 on the side. He bounces the type number the heavy tank number 6 and finishes him off with another big round into him. 3 shots and he's gone, even 950 hit points. The Object 416 comes round, puts another round into his tracks, and that's the 3rd time that this Object 416 has hit Android 5, I believe. Some great use of his armor here, and it looks like the heat round even bounces off his side armor there, probably the spaced armor from the tracks helping to absorb that dirty Russian heat. However, it looks like the Object 416 fires underneath the Centurion with his low profile, so Android 5 comes around the corner and finishes him off. And for a moment there, he was in a 1 versus 7, right guys? Gosh. That A44, I bet you he wishes that he had hit him a little bit harder early on, as he's left on 3 hit points. So, Android 5 secures his 4th kill of the game. A quick dab of his 6 and his 4 key puts his driver back into action. And you know, I'm just thinking about saying that because Android 5's consumable loadout makes so much more sense than mine. And big tip to all of you who are probably just starting this, any of you who are just thinking about starting this game, I recommend to have your consumable loadout just like Android does. For me, I have my small repair kit on 4, I have my med kit on 5, and have my fire extinguisher on 6 because I think that's just the default that I started with. But this makes so much more sense. By having what is at the moment his premium food consumable on 4, which would usually be a manual fire extinguisher, that's much easier to hit. And also by having the small repair kit on 5, that means repairing your tracks, which is usually super simple by just tapping 5-5 rather than pressing 4-5 like I would have on my setup. If this is making sense to any of you. So yeah, I would probably, if I was to start the game again, I would have the consumable loadout like Android 5 and not me. But hell, I'm stuck in my ways. I think it's hard to erase my 35,000 games played. So I love what Android's doing here. He realizes that the cap on the encounter is safe because it takes the enemies 200 seconds to be able to take it. So he's gone hunting the artillery, and fair enough. This tank has now got 5 degrees of gun depression rather than 3, but it doesn't look like it was quite enough there to be able to get a shot into the Su-14 too. But he doesn't miss that one, and can you imagine if he had missed that one? How in hell's name could you miss the side of this barn? I don't even know. So Android 5 shuts down the artillery, and it looks like the enemy team figure out, okay, now we know where he is, let's start to cap, because, you know, we're a bit scared of the fact that this guy has picked up 5 kills. And little do they know that Android 5 is already on 5,700 damage. That is an amazing result for any tier 8 tank, but he's not done yet. He's reduced his 1 versus 7 now into a 1 versus 5, and he knows exactly where 2 of the enemies are. They're in the cap circle. And he spots a KB3 in the open. Oh, you didn't aim that one. You don't have that many rounds that you can afford to waste them. At least fully aim the shots. This tank only has 0.46 accuracy, but a horrific 3.4 seconds aim time. But its gun dispersion values aren't too bad. Wow, that one didn't look like it was going in, but luckily, I don't know who guided that shell in. Probably, gosh, that KB3, now 382 hit points worse for wear, and puts Android 5 up above the 6,000 damage threshold mark. Now, I love what Android is doing here. He's undoubtedly got a very skilled crew, and just look at this. This is just absolutely beautiful. He has got 1 heavy tank going towards the north, and he's got another heavy tank going towards the south. That's just utterly fantastic. Right through the middle. He's probably got a very good camo crew on this tank. A lot of tier 8 Chinese medium tank drivers do have very good crews because they originate from the Type 59. So there are now 3 people in the cap circle for the smallest amount of time there. Now down to 2. It looks like 3 of the remaining 5 tanks are directly in front of him. Yes, they're confirmed. 5 seconds left. 4, 3. Great shot. Securing a kill on the tier 8 British self-propelled gun. And he manages to bounce the A44 as he advances, but not so lucky with the T28. But luckily for him, actually it looks like the T28 is using an under-caliber gun there. I'm not quite sure if it was the A44 or the T28 that shot him. Oh my word, the A44 shoots the T28's gun. Did you see that? And that allows Android 5 enough time to take him down. And I just love what Android 5 did there. He used this slow, cumbersome T28 to be able to avoid shells from the A44 to give him enough time to take him out. And now he goes to work on the back of this Tier 8 American non-turreted tank destroyer. And this is where it's just so frustrating to be in a non-turreted tank destroyer, right guys? There's pretty much nothing that the T-28 can do here to get Android off his back. And he connects 3 rounds into him, doing 1,227 damage to him. Will he finish him off? Oh god, he missed? What? You've only got 2 heat rounds left and you've still got to kill an IS-3 and a KV-3. Come on, Android, calm down. Calm down. You should probably fire a high explosive round into the back here. Well, he uses a heat round. I guess he didn't have enough time to be able to reload, and that means he's only got 1 heat round left, so he decides to load some high explosive rounds instead to go after the KV-3 and the IS-3. He's picked up 8 kills, 7,877 damage, more than anyone should really have to do in a tier 10 tank, let alone a tier 8 premium matchmaking medium. Now, where is this KV-3? Where is the IS-3? He's going to have to go hunting. He's going to have to make excellent use of his ammunition. Oh my god, the KV-3's right there. That's an absolute heartbreak at the end of the game, but you have to also give it to this KV-3 that he managed to pick up his 7th kill of this round. So also a great effort there by Gary Free, and I don't think that Android 5 can feel too hard about that one. So what an absolute crazy round of World of Tanks here for Android 5 with some absolutely stellar plays. He had many precious situations and he handled them beautifully, be it using a dead Centurion 1 to hide from an Object 416 that was flanking him and deal with those opponents in the front of him, or cool calculated plays to go and finish off the artillery before going through the center of 2 heavy tanks using his camera rating and their very poor view range to his advantage to be able to come all the way back to kill 3 tanks in the cap circle. And he turned his 1 versus 7 down into a 1 versus 2, but didn't quite manage to take it down. Nevertheless, when I researched a little bit more about this game, I found out that Android 5 did the most damage of all time, at least for any replay that's been uploaded to any replay website, in a T-34-3, thus making his high caliber the best damaged T-34-3 game of all time with 7,877 damage. And when you have to do insane amounts of damage like that, you get rewarded 215,000 credits, even after resupplying all of those heat rounds that he had to fire because he ran out of AP rounds. That's still 137,000 credits profit, 3,454 experience for what, a double? Oh my god, that's not even a double. Is that some kind of event experience? No, it's not. Oh my word, 2,093 base experience in a tier 8 tank? That's just absolutely silly. And Android 5 picked up the Radley Walters for the 8th kills, the high caliber as we mentioned, and also the Defender medal, and 100 base defense points for defending against those 3 tanks. Android 5, thank you so much for uploading this on the replays.QuickyBaby.com website, and congratulations to you on having the highest damage game of all time in the T-34-3, due to, frankly, some very well thought out plays. They were ambitious, you executed them well, and you showcased why the T-34-3 can be a very good tank in the hands of a very competent player such as yourself. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this replay. If you did, or maybe it was just useful to you, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the T-34-3, especially considering the buff that happened to this tank a couple of patches ago. Do you think it's in line with other medium tanks such as the AMX CDC, the T-54 Mod 1, and even vehicles such as the FCM 50T, which try and kind of compete with this vehicle as, shall we say, the best all-round kind of tier 8 medium? And I fully realize that the FCM 50T is a heavy, but yeah, if you've played the tank, you'll know it's really more of a medium than a heavy. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.